JD Vance is the worst vice presidential nominee in the history of American politics, so much so that it seems like even Donald Trump knows it at this point. And the rift between the two is growing, not only just because of the damage that JD Vance has done to Donald Trump's campaign, but because of some recent discussion of Donald Trump's cognitive decline that's getting him a little bit upset with JD Vance, maybe more than a little bit, because at a recent speech, Donald Trump threw JD Vance under the bus. And I think there's a couple of reasons why that he made this attack on Vance that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It really goes a long way, and it means the world to me. Now, before we get into what Trump said, I think we need a little bit of context, and we can get some of that with this clip from a Vance town hall right here.
So, Senator, you're going to want to sit down for this one.
Oh, no.
Not unlike Beetlejuice. If you invoke the former president's names too many times in a row, he's going to want to weigh in on what is being said about him. And we have a call right now from former President Donald John Trump. He wants to weigh in. Mr. President, I know there's a little bit of a delay. Can you hear us? And what is your question for the senator?
Well, I can hear you, Chris, and I do have a question, and I think it'll be quite an interesting one. The answer should be easy. How brilliant is Donald J. Trump?
Take your time. Think about it.
Well, first of all, sir, this is supposed to be undecided voters. I would hope that I have your vote, of all people. But here's first of all, sir, of course, you're very brilliant, and we both agree. We both agree that it's important to have very smart people running our government. But here.
There are two things that are incredibly important to Donald Trump. The first being that he always needs to be praised, always needs credit for things that he hasn't done, from his cultists, from his Trump stooges. He needs constant reinforcement. But while those Trump stooges are doing that, Donald Trump wants to make sure that they're not outshining him. And so even though JD Vance is doing a small town hall with News Nation, Trump has to call in to make sure everyone knows it's all about him all the time. And we see this kind of playing out more and more in this dynamic between Trump and Vance, but it's not the only thing JD has done lately to upset Donald Trump. So before we get into what Trump said, we need a little bit more context with this clip.
I want to give a shout out to, you guys have a great lieutenant governor. We've got, sorry, Mark isn't here.
Because of the disaster that has been Mark Robinson, Donald Trump has had to make multiple campaign stops and spend way more money than was expected out of North Carolina, a state that most people didn't think was going to be in play in this election. And so JD Vance bringing up Mark Robinson at a campaign event in North Carolina is an absolute disaster for their campaign. JD Vance, much like Donald Trump, whenever he speaks, it is bound to backfire. But of course, we know when Donald Trump speaks, it's a lot worse. We see the cognitive decline that the media is finally starting to discuss. And with that comes more talk of JD Vance's role in this dynamic. And so before we get to Trump, I think this Lincoln Project ad gives a lot of context on what's going on between them.
You're in trouble, Donald. In the courts, in the streets, in your own party. But there's one big problem you never saw coming. Turn around. He's right behind you. It's JD. His billionaire friends mock you. Why do you think they forced JD Vance on you? Age is getting to you, Donald. And you're just too slow to see the plan. If you win, JD will come for you. You won't see him until it's too late. He won't wait until you make a mistake. JD's plot to invoke the 25th Amendment is already underway. Your cabinet betrayed you before. Why would it be different now? And with Democrats in the majority, no one will stop him. Republicans want someone younger, smarter, someone stable. A leader who will execute Project 2025 without your problems. Rupert's Wall Street Journal said Vance's version of Trump is better than the real thing. JD switched from never Trump hater to your running mate in record time. You thought that was real? You think he won't stab you in the back to seize 10 years of power in the White House? So yes, Donald, they really are out to get you. And the one who'll betray your presidency is right by your side.
Now, we don't like to get too much into conspiracies on this show, but I think it's certainly a possibility that those supporting Trump who really advocated on behalf of JD Vance, the Elon Musks, the Peter Thiels of the world, secretly would rather see Trump become president in a nightmare scenario so they can push for the 25th Amendment. They can use their power and influence to try to point out Donald Trump's cognitive decline, which is incredibly clear, and have JD Vance replace him. Now, I don't know if that is scarier than Donald Trump, as scary or less so, but it is certainly a terrifying proposition. And it's something that scares Donald Trump as well. And that's why he went after JD Vance, taking a shot at him in this clip right here.
This guy, he's dumb as a rock. Of course, you could make the case that, there's a theory, pick a really bad vice president, that way they never get rid of you. So maybe she did a very smart thing, who knows? But we're going to say, Kamala, you're horrible.
Trump is essentially openly acknowledging that if he became president, he picked JD Vance because he doesn't think he'd be able to replace him or boot him out, saying that he picked a bad vice president so people would never get rid of him. And it's clearly a fear that he has. Whenever he talks about President Biden, he always says, oh, what a terrible thing they did replacing him. That should never be allowed to happen. And I think it comes from the place of insecurity about his own cognitive state and his own position in his party if he were to be elected. Again, a nightmare scenario. And it's something that Kamala Harris is playing on a lot in this campaign, of course, calling out Donald Trump's cognitive decline, as she did in this great new ad right here.
Welcome to Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, a state-of-the-art senior facility located on the coast of Florida. If the senior in your life is getting exhausted, it might be time for a change. Here at Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, we care for even the most particular residents.
My teleprompter people doing a great job. As are Asians.
Even the ones who still feel young at heart.
And I'm not 80, and I'm not that close to 80. Put on Pavarotti singing Ave Maria.
Many residents find their favorite music comforting. If the senior in your life tends to wander off, our round-the-clock care has you covered. Mar-a-Lago Senior Living. Watch the Florida sunset while you sundown.
This message has been such an integral part to the closing argument for Kamala Harris. That contrast, of course, that we've been talking about through this entire campaign about the past of Donald Trump versus the future of Kamala Harris, both in their age and, of course, their policies. But it's also important to talk about the way that Donald Trump's derangement could also affect those around him. They would be empowered to act with impunity in attacking our government because Donald Trump would just be out of it. His focus would be on ranting on Truth Social with a lot more power than he has now, and of course attacking his political enemies while his stooges went after everything else. And that should be terrifying to us, especially as JD Vance would do whatever Donald Trump wanted out of him, like Tim Walz said right here.
Now, yesterday was like an epiphany day. If you remember back a couple weeks ago, we had a little debate in New York City, and I asked the simplest question that you could ever be asked as an American. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Pretty simple. Every court in the land, every person knows this. And on that night, I got kind of a smug non-response to it that, oh, Tim, we're thinking about the future, something like that. Well, yesterday, they just start saying the quiet stuff outside. He got asked about it yesterday, and he said, no, Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election. Now, the job that we're asking for to serve the American public, we don't serve an individual. We serve the Constitution and the people of the United States. That's who we serve. JD Vance made it clear. His fealty is to Donald Trump, not the people of this community or any community across the country. But look, here's the good news. He is never going to be vice president, and Donald Trump is never going to be president.
We know where JD Vance's fealty lies. We know where the fealty of those in Project 2025 lie. It's with Donald Trump. It is with attacking our government. It is with going after our rights and our civil liberties. That is the most terrifying aspect of Project 2025 to me, not just the bad policy agenda, and it's worse than just bad, but the way that Project 2025 seeks to empower those around Donald Trump who are more deranged than ever. because all the former officials who came out against him, while they were certainly dangerous Republicans, these people are dangerous cultists to an extent we would have never seen at the cabinet level, the executive level around Donald Trump. And that should absolutely terrify us, especially as they are willing to do anything to reach their goals and to attack our democracy. And JD Vance certainly is, as we can see in this ad from the Lincoln Project right here.
What is wrong with JD Vance? Everywhere he goes, he stirs up hate against immigrants. Who's he married to? A daughter of immigrants. He married her when he was still an anti-Trumper, comparing Trump to Hitler.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
In Springfield, kids are under armed guard. Their class day photos canceled. This time, it's Haitians. Next time, it might be Indians. What kind of man stirs up hate that could turn on his own children? The kind of man JD Vance is. He made a fortune attacking his hometown and his own family. Now he's hating on immigrants, his own wife's family. This isn't about politics. It's about basic decency. His neighbors and his own family can't trust JD Vance.
There will be no checks on these people. Donald Trump has been given permission by the Supreme Court to be a king, to be a dictator if he wants, and he will pass that power down to everyone in his administration if he were to become president. That is a terrifying thought, considering what Donald Trump wants to go after, who he wants to go after. It should scare us all. There will be no guardrails on Donald Trump, or JD Vance, or Laura Loomer, or Matt Gaetz, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that has to be a part of this closing message in the final days of this campaign, and is one that we're going to be talking about every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.